So Marco, welcome to Soul Point. I know you've been before, and your daughter Crystal used to come and sing here, didn't she? Beautiful voice, Crystal, gorgeous voice. So I've just got a couple of questions for you, Marco, just because not everybody here knows you. So would you like to just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of story about you?
Yeah, hi guys, lovely to be here. My name is Marco, I'm 49 years old from Kennelly. I'm an attendee of the church here, and I've been on and off for a few years now. I actually at the minute work in Cardiff, working as like an activities coordinator, but I work in a Christian centre. But I work alongside like drug users, drug dealers, criminals, that kind of lifestyle, which I've come out of myself. So yeah, I'm a father of 3 and a grandfather of 3 also. So yeah.
Thanks, Marco. Okay, so can you give us just a bit of information about your background? Because you mentioned you've come from that kind of background.
Yeah, well, I grew up one of 5 boys. Everything was cool. It was 3 of us in the beginning when my mother and father were married. There was a breakdown in the relationship, in the marriage. And my mother then moved us to North Kennelly where she met someone else. And they got married. And everything was cool. He worked hard in the beginning, and then he started bothering with the wrong people, and then they had another 2 children, but he started bothering with the wrong people, started smoking pot, and then from there then he started indulging in amphetamine and stuff like that, and then led him to start to peddle, deal drugs from the house. I was a young individual, you know, and one of those little tough kids from a council estate. So I'm kind of in that environment then you start to see things. So although they try not to show you, you still see things and hear things. So I knew what was going on. And yeah, so that led me down a rocky road where in school, you're distracted from learning. So like, when you set out to, you aspire to do things in life. I want to be a fireman. I wanted to do these things, and because I seen like the cars and the people coming back and forth, it started to set different desires in my heart. Do you know what I mean? It started to distract me from what I really wanted to be doing. So where I should have been learning in school, you know what I mean? You can't wait then to go and smoke a joint with your mates. You know what I mean? And that was the reality. But then it didn't stop there. You know what I mean? And we'll go on to that now in a minute and where that led me.
So you ended up in a few dangerous situations. Either you were yourself in danger, or there were other, things. I remember you saying there was a story where you were being chased by the police. That was an epic story. I'm not going to lie. I've never heard a story like that before. So how did you come to end up in those kinds of situations?
Well,
and what were they?
Smoking pot was just the beginning, because seeing my stepfather, dealing drugs. And then I come to that age then where I started peddling drugs. And then what started small eventually became quite large. And I weren't just dealing to like small time peddlers, but then it grew to the point where I was dealing with main dealers in the area. And then I was dealing with boys in Liverpool. So it was quite an in-depth thing I had going on there, making quite a bit of money, which, that can be another hold in your life. It's not just the drugs, it's the drug dealing, the money and everything that come with it. So then obviously I had a couple of boys working with me at the time, and I was out on my motorbike. I was moving things around the dunes. And as I went to come off the dunes, I'd finished what I was doing down there, and as I was coming off the dunes, a speed copper was waiting for me. He must have seen me on the dunes from the road, and then he waited for me, and as he did, he blue lighted me and chased me. So I couldn't shake him off. In the end, I had to go on to the dunes, and by then, he must have radioed through for a helicopter, and it was like middle of winter. It was like either January or February. So then I couldn't see him, but I could hear it. It was like really real overcast, but I can hear it. So anyway, I was going round Kenfig Pool. There's a pool in Kenfig, I'm sure you know it. Middle of winter, and I couldn't shake him off. And I know they got like infrared. The bike was boiling. They got infrared cameras. So even if they could see me, I know they could see me. And not only that, I've been up for 2 or 3 days. I've been taking amphetamine. That was the lifestyle and everything that come with it. And I thought the only way I'm going to be able to get rid of this copper is drive into the pool. So I just drove the bike straight in the pool and laid on the bike. I just laid on the bike, kept me warm for about, I don't know how long. It felt like I was in there for hours, but I was probably in there for about 45 minutes to an hour. But I thought, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to die. You know, and I was freezing to the bone. So I got out of there, left the bike there, and then I walked up to the top, called my mate, they come and got me out of there. But yeah, I had a couple of close calls, you know, in regards to the police. Because obviously I was a criminal for a long time. From the age of 13 I started, and I had a couple of guys from the estates were robbing cars, and I said, well, why didn't you come with me and, you know, make some money out of it? And they would like do ram raids and stuff like that and bring me all the stuff, and you know, where I would make money that way. And it just got me into a bigger hole, and they just had hold of my life, you know.
So in terms of your character, who you were as a person, how would you describe yourself back then?
Not a very nice person to be around.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know in there, deep in there was a good person in there. But I think what happens sometimes, we get cultivated by our surroundings, and we get molded and shaped by a character that we never set out to be. So inside, I was yearning that because I knew it was in there, but I just couldn't get it. I couldn't just connect with that. And it took an event in my life where I had an encounter with Almighty God. So,
so tell us what led to that point. What led you to finding Jesus?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to... right, so there was a guy called Neil Harvey who was my cousin. And if we just explain a little bit about it, at the time I had a couple of drug runners, and one of them took his own life. He's only 24 years old. And that really put a weight on my life. It really destroyed me, in fact. Where I wasn't an emotional person. I was quite stern and solid in my emotions, but that really broke me. And Neil, who was one of my drug runners at the time, he'd done a little stint in prison after this, and he found the Lord. He found his faith in Jesus Christ. And for me, I just went out of control. I just went down and down and down. And I just was taking more drugs. I was more violent. I just weren't safe to be around. And I identified that. And I didn't like who I was. I didn't like what I'd become. And Neil used to come and tell me about this Jesus. And in the beginning, I thought he'd gone round a bend. But
that's what we all think at first.
Yeah, but it was something about him I could not deny. There was something about him, because I knew this guy. He dealt drugs with me. He run drugs, all around the place for me. So I knew him as a character and as a person. But when he went off to Bible college and he come back and forth and he would tell me about this Jesus, I couldn't get away from the fact there was something different about him. And then he led another guy to the Lord called Simon Evans, who used to come here. And Simon then, he haunted me, that boy did. He would not leave me alone. So I used to hide from him and everything. Yeah, I remember in the garage, there was like a hole in the garage door, and I could hear somebody tapping away, and I was in the garage messing about, and I looked at the garage door and I could see him knocking at the door. I thought, oh no, not him again, he's back me. But I ended up letting him in, and we just forged a brilliant relationship. Even to today, I love him to bits. So I'm really, really glad he did, because, obviously he didn't want to really be around me, but he'd done it because he felt God was prompting him, and I was having dreams about me and stuff like that, and some weird stuff was happening to him. So he'd come and he started Bible bashing me and telling me about this Jesus. So,
what a term of endearment.
Yeah, I know. So and he started inviting me to church. So in the beginning, I was like, I was too full of pride to go to church. I was like, I was known as a local tough kid and what have you, and the drug dealer. And so for me, church was like sissy stuff. I couldn't be a sissy. I couldn't be affiliated with that. But I knew one thing, I had to change my life. It was ruining me. It was ruining my children. It was ruining everything about me. So then in the end, I said, I tell you what, let's just go and have a look. I'm going to have a little look and, give it a try. Otherwise, where am I going? Which way am I going? I'm going one way, and that's self-destruct. So I went along, and I'll be honest with you, as we was walking down, and I always say this, there was like a window, but I was entering into the church, and they were all there praising Jesus and stuff like that, and I looked in, and I thought, wow, and I'm the one with problems. But I tell you what, I went in there, and it turned my life upside down. And that was 16 years ago, and it absolutely radically changed my life, and I love it. I had an encounter with Jesus Christ. Now, I didn't think it was possible, because I thought Jesus was the one in the stained glass window. You know what I mean? One from in school they tell you about, but I didn't know I could have a personal relationship with him. And you know, I no longer wanted to do the things I'd done. You know, and he set a different heart in me where I could love more. You know what I mean? And be a proper father. Because that's what used to kill me, is not being able to father my children the way I wanted to father them. So it taught me that, you know, and then I became a youth worker and I went on to work with people with drug issues and stuff like that. And it took me on a journey, you know, and I'm still on that journey now, you know, 16 years later. You know, it's just radically changed my life.
So you had this incredible encounter with Jesus, and now it's 16 years on. So looking back over your life, who and what has Jesus been to you?
Oh, he's been my everything. My friend, my brother, my Lord, my Saviour. You know, I didn't realise when Simon used to tell me about Jesus coming and dying on a cross for me, for the forgiveness of my sins, you know, was possible because I'd done so much. You know, I lived in such a dark place for so long. And everything that come with the drug dealing world and all that. So for me, you know, I never thought I'd escape it. So when when it came to the realization that, you know, that he actually came and died for me and that I could spend eternity with him in heaven. And if, you know, I had something terrible that happened to me and I did die in that process, or if something nasty happened to me, that I would have been separated from him for eternity also. And that realization sunk in. So yeah, but not only that, it's the goodness that he brings, everything that he brings, you know, just living your life full of joy, you know, happy, not run down and miserable and walking around with the weight in the world on your shoulders. Because in the beginning, when you started drug dealing, you think you're running around like King Kong, you think it's brilliant. You know what I mean? You've got this new lease of life, you've got money in your pocket and everyone wants something off you. But it don't last, you know what I mean? And it's not good. And I soon figured that out along the way.
And last question, $1 million question. There's someone here tonight who is trapped in a way of life, whether it's like yours or whether it's mental health issues, whether it's family problems, whatever it is. What would you say to them tonight?
Well, start off, first of all, because like it's really hard for us to come to that position where we think, right, you know, I really need some help, but I don't know where to turn to. And then, like, for you, God can be a million miles away, but he's not, he's just a prayer away. And I just come into that place of just in your quiet time and just saying, like, God, you know my situation, you know, I don't know if you're real or not, but, you know, can you just show yourself and maybe attend a church service, you know, go and have a look. Because for me, I had to search, I had to go and have a little bit of digging, because, you know, it doesn't just come and smack you in the face. You know, you've got to do a bit of search. Ask, seek, and knock, and you will find. You know, looking for God is like digging for jewels. And the more you dig, the more you find. And you might have to dig a little bit, and then you'll find. And you dig a little bit more, and you'll find more. You know, God is real, and he's a real person, and he loves you with all his heart. And he wants you a part of his life. He doesn't want you to be separated. And I know it's hard for some of you guys to listen to, but, you know, it's a reality to it. And, yeah, just search. Just seek. And it may be not right now in your life. It might be down the line, but, you know, that's what this is about. It's about sharing my experience with you. So one day, you know, you can hold on to that thought that, you know, you're not on your own. You know, it isn't empty. You know, there is hope and an opportunity for you to know the Lord that come to save you and died on the cross for you.
Thank you so much, Marco. Marco, everybody.
Okay.